Bellevue Christian is a bit unique with having its independence as a Christian school. You're not affiliated with a church. We've been doing this for 70 years, so we've collected a lot of folks along the way. A lot of different people have shaped Bellevue Christian School. We occupy a pretty diverse geographic area that has introduced the concept of a pretty diverse community here. Diversity in a variety of forms, socio-economic diversity, certainly denominational or ideological diversity, racial and ethnic diversity, and we talk a lot in terms of the program that we want about diversity of gifts. How do we help families understand the value of what they're going to experience here?
We choose to live in a tension where we are trying to be a school that equips kids with how to think. We're not an indoctrination school that says, here's what to think. It would be easier, in a sense, if that were the case. Well, here's what to think and here's how to act, and then we set up a whole compliance system to make sure that happens. That's not what we want to do, because the first 10 words of the Bible are so important. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So none of this starts with us, and none of it ends with us. So we're not trying to create the BCS kid, and we're not trying to create a path where kids do certain things, they check certain boxes, and then they graduate and they make us look good in the end. So then we go to future families and go, if you send your kid here, here's the deliverables. We openly, you go back to the idea of messy, we realize that God's table is a big table. And so we're trying to create a place where kids can work out their faith and work out who they are in the Lord. Frankly, that's just harder than it is if we just nope, here's how it works. Here are the rules of club membership. As long as you abide by them, you're good. And if you don't, you're out.
And then I kind of connect that with this idea of being a school that is not a fortress, but being a school that is a beacon, right? Like a light that shines. And if we send our kids to a fortress school, and until they're 18 years old, they only encounter one system of thought, have they ever wrestled with something that they didn't agree with, right? Or have they ever flexed the muscles of respecting someone who thinks differently than them? Or have they even heard anything that's counter to what they've grown up thinking, right? How much more terrifying to send an 18-year-old out into the world who's never struggled or wrestled than to send out a student who's learned and struggled and grown some muscles around faith and thinking and wrestling with big ideas. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just breeds curiosity. Our interdenominational diversity is one of my favorite things about Bellevue Christian. It just allows for, you can say, here are all the things on this topic. And it's like this smorgasbord of learning. And I just love that we open that up for our students and our faculty. Let's explore those things together and find common ground and figure out where we disagree and why.
Do you have a favorite object lesson from the high school English classroom on that? A book where you saw that really come alive, or a character, or...
The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. One of the questions you always ask as an English teacher when you're teaching The Great Gatsby is Gatsby great? And it's such a fun discussion, and I think what I saw in our school is just this rich exploration of what it means to be a great man or person. And the students would argue about hard work, and they would argue about persistence, and they would argue about creativity. And all of those things went into their definitions of what it meant to be great.
What's been the most divisive book to teach?
Lord of the Flies. I think it's the most cynical view of human nature. And so students are often very frustrated by the inherent cynicism that William Golding presents. If you're left alone and you have no structure, it devolves into pig's heads on this stick.
Jesus says they'll know you're Christians by your love, right? They'll know that you're Christians by the way that you love one another. And if we only sit around people who are just like us, it's not a very compelling picture of love. And we're learning to love each other and to work out our faith. And to engage with each other and to honor and respect each other, I think that's the kind of love that is compelling to the world beyond.
If my identity is in Christ and who he made me to be and am becoming, then your differences don't have to threaten me. And my identity is not in anything man-made. So I can do my best to understand it. If someone disagrees with me, that doesn't make them less human. That doesn't make them the terrible other.
We are made in the image of God. And as long as I see you, Mike Olson, as being made in the image of God, I'm not going to want to do anything to break that relationship, because I want to be in relationship with the image of God.
Right.
And it's like, it's so easy to forget that you and you and you and me are made in the image of God. And the fact that we just get to keep talking about that here at Bellevue Christian means that as long as we come back to that, we can have these conversations.
It takes tremendous institutional fortitude
Yes.
to walk that today, especially. It's never been more vital and it's never been more vulnerable. But I feel like so much of what we do here is necessary, is essential, important for stuff outside of these walls. Here's a 70-year-old institution that has its head on straight, that contains a lot of voices, a lot of stories, has a lot of experience, and has a real opportunity as an organization to have an influence outside of its walls.
We're invited into these echo chambers of ideas so often, right? Like you get together for dinner and you sit and you argue with your people about something that you all have the same idea on anyway, right? Like you're all impassioned and you're all arguing the same idea, right? But for any of the beautiful things that God says that he has for us, to have compassion, to have humility, to have creativity, to have empathy and understanding and brotherly love, you have to engage with people who don't think what you think. If discipleship is just a long walk in the basic stuff over and over, learning grace over and over, learning humility over and over, then we have to be around people who don't think what we think, and we have to be around people who challenge us. That's what God's after, making us more like his son.